us on YouTube, Sudi Burnett English. So you can see Jeff is all ready and prepared for you guys. Hi, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi, Sudi. Good morning. How are you?
I am great. We had a little bit of technical issues, as you are aware, but it passed. So hopefully everything is going to go well. Today, live, Jeff, I know you have a lot to say. It's about surviving a narcissistic relationship, or what
Mm,
do we do with a narcissist partner.
mm,
And before we start, Jeff, I want us to go through a couple of things. One of them is gaslighting, which we hear a lot. It's a trait of a narcissistic personality. One
hmm
is gaslighting. The other one is breadcrumbing, breadcrumbing, which I have seen a lot with people who have I have done a session that they have been experiencing a narcissistic relationship, and you often see this trade of breadcrumbing. And then what else did I have? So let's get started by that. To you, what are the traits of being a narcissist?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I was hoping that we would do that because I think that with narcissism, particularly, I have for much of my life I didn't dive into the term narcissist. I never used it. I was always careful not to use it because I've always felt that it's one of those words that people throw around very casually. They don't like somebody, they call the person a narcissist. And I thought, it's really kind of mucky because if we don't have some standardized definition of what a narcissist is, then I don't even want to talk with people who use it because if we can't agree on what it is, then we've got nowhere to go and how to deal with it. So let's talk about definitions of narcissism. As you said, gaslighting, and then the other is breadcrumbing. What I would like to do is eliminate breadcrumbing because that's not, in my experience, breadcrumbing is not a action typically taken by narcissists. Breadcrumbing is when somebody ignores you, ignores you, ignores you, and drops a little attention now and then. That might be a tactic of a very manipulative person, and there are several different negative. They're referred to right now as the dark triad personality types, which is narcissism, psychopathy, and being manipulative, Machiavellianism. So if somebody's manipulative, they might breadcrumb you, but a narcissist wouldn't because they're too into their ego to breadcrumb you. They want your attention, they want your admiration, they want you to worship them. They don't have the patience to breadcrumb you. So when I get into let's identify gaslighting and then we'll work back up to the
Yes,
meat
I'm
of
sorry.
being a narcissist.
Hold on one second, Jeff. Can everyone hear Jeff good? Because
Are you
yours
having
is
trouble?
not quite clear, Jeff.
Okay,
What?
is that a lot clearer?
Huh?
Is that a lot clearer?
Yeah, there's a humming, something is there. So
Hmm,
let's go on. Tell me,
okay.
guys, do you hear Jeff good or not? And by the way, come on YouTube so you can also see Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you'd be hearing, but let me know if you hear anything. So, um, when we go to gaslighting, the kind of simple definition of gaslighting is somebody literally telling you to your face that you don't know what you're talking about when you have facts about something. And you could say, I watched you open the refrigerator door. And they're like, no, you didn't. I didn't open the refrigerator door. Like, that's a very simple example, but it's a very clear example of gaslighting. You woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. I didn't wake up at 7 a.m. What are you talking about? When somebody just denies to your face that they did the thing that they did, that's gaslighting. Gaslighting, I have experienced as an action of people who are narcissistic. It is, and I think that the reason why is because when we look at a narcissist and the definition of a narcissist, there is an ego, a self grandiosity where they really do truly believe they are better than you. They think they're more intelligent than you. They think that they're smarter in every way. They think they're more clever than you. And if that's if that's where you're operating from, then clearly you would gaslight somebody because your whole attitude would be, I'm too smart for you. You can't even possibly think at the level I'm thinking at. So I have no respect for you. And I'm just going to tell you whatever I want to tell you. And I don't really care. And that's exactly how narcissists operate.
Okay. So I'm going to go through a couple of things and see, guys. Please write a comment and see if that resonates with you guys. If you have been, I'm sure pretty much, as Jeff said, the word narcissism is being used a lot and very lightly. And I was thinking about that. I said, well, I did some study, and they said mainly from the year 1980s, this word of narcissistic personality or narcissism came out. Before that, it was going around between the psychologists. Also, gaslighting was another thing, another word that now everybody is using it. I even did a live about it. Gaslighting, love bombing, breadcrumbing. These were words that it was in psychology, and then it spread it out, and everybody is using it right now. But basically, what I feel, because I work with a lot of clients who were in a relationship with a narcissist, and these are the things that I think about narcissists. Basically, they are the most misread, because oftentimes what they show on the outside, it's someone who is really holding their values up, and they're saying, you know nothing, I know the best. And in the contrary, narcissistic people are totally the other way around. Narcissistic people are the most insecure, and I think I did a Farsi live about it a while back. They are the most insecure people. They cannot, they really don't want to be lonely, although their personality in the outside or they're in the relationship with you guys, how they come across is, you need me, I don't need you. But like I said, it's totally the opposite. They're very fearful of being lonely. And remember, for them to practice their tools of narcissism, they need a victim. And I talked about that before. I said usually narcissistic people are looking for victim personality, because otherwise it doesn't work out, right? But let's understand narcissistic people. Like I said, I'm going to repeat it again. I mean, all these tools that they are using as showing themselves to be standing up, being proud of themselves, these are all fake masks, many fake masks that narcissists use. So, first of all, let's not get thrown off by the way they're behaving. You gotta read deeper into what they're showing you in their personality. But what I notice is the tools that they are using, narcissist people, one of them is love bombing. At the beginning, when you notice a narcissist, you see that they usually are using their charms. They're very charming. I mean, the way they talk to you, how they love bomb you, they create that intimacy with you, they share their deep things, and they're doing a lot of things for you. And remember that always, if you're in a narcissistic relationship, look back at the beginning to see how they love bombed you. Now, the next step when it comes to breadcrumbing, that's the second tools they're using. At the beginning, they give you so much to pull you in. Once they pulled you in, now they're going to start breadcrumbing you. It comes to the point that I work with a client and they said, "Oh my God, he has really changed because now he's doing the dishes sometimes, or now he walked the dog." And I'm saying these are normal things that couples do. So what I mean by breadcrumbing is that little by little, when they got you hooked in, they start cutting back. And what I usually see people do, they become so hungry and desperate for the smallest attention that they can get from a narcissist. The smallest thing, they're like, "Oh my God, he asked me to go out to dinner. We haven't done that for years. And when we went to dinner, he didn't even check his phone." Hello, those are normal things. So that this is what I mean by breadcrumbing, because they make you starve from their attention, from intimacy. Oftentimes, you see narcissistic people see intimacy just and solely as having sex. As you and I know, intimacy is a lot more than having sex. Sex is a small part of it, right? But what they do, because the only way they see their translation of intimacy is having sex, oftentimes you see they cut back. They become passive aggressive. And they are like, "Oh, you did that, and it hurts me so much that now I'm not emotionally available," which they never have been, you know. So remember, I'm going to pass it on to Jeff, but remember that a narcissist, to me, it's someone who has been hurt a lot. Everything that they're doing once they get into a relationship, like I said, is that deep insecurity, is the intimacy uh, threat that they use, is the ego injury that they have, that they are so aware of it that I cannot get hurt, is the abandonment issue, is the disappointment. So when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, if you want to really understand a narcissist, keep that in mind, that for them to really get deep into a relationship is fearful. It's a you have to be to really get and understand the narcissist, and I have seen many of them. Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a lot there clearly. And I would add something because, there's the personality type that is narcissistic is been detailed a few different ways. So, we have some more clinical definitions of narcissist, and then we have more casual, non-official, which is a lot of the material that's out there, which is good material. It's good data, is more anecdotal than it is actually agreed to scientific data. And part of the anecdotal data that I have listened to is that there's actually a couple different types of narcissists. So there is the kind that you have said where they're hurt, they're injured, they're lonely, and they're looking to feed that. There's another type of narcissist that I've heard discussed, which is that they got an abundance of love and attention. However, that love and attention was predicated on performance. And ultimately, it's actually speaking to the same ego problem, which is you don't love me for who I am. So
Mhm.
either they're getting denied the love and attention, and so the person is starving for love and attention, like, I want you to love me, and I want you to love me for who I am, or we're being loved because we're a high producer. We're being loved because we're a high achiever. We're being loved, but it's conditional love. And so we're in that same emotional place of, but I want you to love me for me. And that, if done at an early enough age, can condition a child to adopt a narcissistic behavior, because as that child becomes an adult, forms a relationship, has a family, they might sort of wage war on their spouse and their family, because they're always trying to live up to the person. They're controlling the attention to get that love, but they're like trying to overcompensate, and they're never actually getting that authentic love for who they are, that they are desperately craving. So that's one thing to pay attention to. I got your point on breadcrumbing. So my whole kind of experience with breadcrumbing was more of like a online behavior of like liking people's posts every once in a while. And I get your real world example. And even Robert Greene, who wrote the law of the art of seduction, talks about the personality type that is the rake. And the rake is that same personality type, which is constantly kind of hurting somebody, and but then also at the same time being the provider of the love and attention. And so in the victim, the target of the seduction, the person feels the pain, but then the person administering the pain also administers the remedy and the love and the pleasure. And then the victim becomes addicted to that cycle of pain and pleasure, and then pain and pleasure, and then pain and pleasure. So these are some things to look out for. Now, the challenge is, I think, for everyone is, I don't think anybody enters into a relationship with a narcissist just willingly. Nobody's saying, I know, I've got an idea. I want to get involved with somebody who's just going to rake me over the coals emotionally. That sounds like a great way to spend my life. None of us are doing that. And if we kind of move in the direction of, well, what exactly is motivating the behavior of a narcissist, and then what's motivating the behavior of a victim, then we can provide some help, for people who might want to avoid that or get out of it and not fall into it again. And one of those things is that even in the American Psychiatric Journal, like the one of the hallmarks of a narcissist is their expansion of power, the expansion of power and the expansion of control. So you talked about love bombing. It's like, well, why? Why would they love bomb? Well, ultimately, they want you dependent on them. In my life, I've experienced narcissism through the act of provision. People who would come into my life and they would provide for me. And I don't want to get into who these people are on this call, but there are significant people in my life who were in a place to contribute to me and provide for me, but it wasn't unconditional. It was conditional, but it was a never agreed to silent condition where in their mind, providing for me in their mind equated to, I can now run your life and tell you what to do. I own you. You're mine. Well, we never had that discussion. We never signed some sort of document that said, you give me something and I give you my soul in return, my allegiance, my obedience. And so that's one thing, is that they want to expand their power. Now they are going to, as you said, look for victims. So if you have a personality type where all of us want to be loved for who we are, but let's say you're a little bit more in the victim of that and you're really looking for somebody to love you, that's going to attract a narcissist, because the narcissist is going to see like a wounded animal and say, I can swoop in and give this person the validation that they are desperately seeking. I'm going to tell you you're the most beautiful person I've ever met. I'm going to tell you you're the smartest person I've ever met. I'm going to just, you deserve so much more in your life. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. And I'm going to provide all that you deserve. And how could we not fall for that? If somebody comes into your life and they're just giving you all sorts of love and attention and validation, how could you not go for that?
Yeah.
And and then you realize only when it's too late, only when you feel the monster that is the narcissist, like, oh shoot, I didn't realize that there was some sort of agreement that I never agreed to. Now I want to give people a tool. And I think that we behave a lot like dogs. And it seems like a silly, funny analogy, but what I mean by that is we've all met dogs that just love us. They love us. They've never met us. They are smiles. They are wagging their tails. They're wagging their tongues. And then we pet them and they love us. And then we've met dogs that are guarded. They don't let us in. They bark. They want to snarl at us. And it takes time and patience to earn that dog's love and trust. And I have experienced like a similar relationship with humans, meaning I've gotten to a point where if somebody's quick to love me, they're quick to validate me, they're quick to throw compliments my way, it's a little bit of easy come, easy go. There's either they're going to leave just as easily as they came, or they've got some motive. But if a person is a little bit more challenging, dogs are much better. But if a person is a bit more challenging, they're a bit more defensive, guarded, maybe they're more dismissive of me, and I have to, we kind of just
John, I wanna ask you: Is do you hear Jeff clearly? Yeah. Do you because I don't quite hear Jeff clearly. That his mic is we're not having issue with the sound there. So can you guys tell me if you can hear Jeff really well or not? You're having a hard time hearing him. Jeff, is there something? This is what I'm getting. Like your sound, it's not very crisp. So is
really,
huh?
I think that might be on, I don't know if it's the broadcast technology. I mean, this is kind of my pro setup. You've seen me in my much more casual setup before. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes, we hear clearly. Thank you.
Let me see. What does she say? Yes, we hear clearly. Leila said they can hear you clearly. Okay, great.
So, as I was saying, using kind of the dog analogy, that while it might be a bit more emotionally frustrating to have to work for somebody, I found that it's typically a more genuine and safer relationship, and you're moving towards each other a little bit more slowly. You're moving towards each other on agreements with boundaries, respect for those boundaries, integrity. And a relationship that's built on integrity, boundaries, respect for each other, that's going to stand and the test of time, and it's not going to have the challenges than the easy come, easy go, a more manipulative, emotional strategy to interact with somebody.
Oh yeah. Okay, got it. So here's what I want everyone to be engaging right now. Tell me and write a comment, either if you guys are watching us on YouTube or Instagram. Have you had an experience with a narcissist? And if you say yes, who is it? Is your experience with a narcissistic mom, dad, partner, or who is the most narcissist in your life that you feel that by being with them, you got hurt in a relationship? I want to see who can identify with this. Now, let's look back. I want you first write this comment, and then secondly, I want us to really get, do you think I'm correct or do you disagree that people who turn out to be a narcissist or they use the narcissism tools could be those who really got hurt, they got wounded in their childhood, or they got abandoned, or they experienced a lot of disappointments. Look at that and let's have compassion and understanding for a narcissist. because any of us who got wounded in our childhood, we got constantly disappointed, we got abused, whether it's sexually, mentally, emotionally, or anything else. We got our ego actually got damaged or got bruised or whatever. We could be using these narcissistic tools at time. So looking at a narcissist, you don't get fooled by the picture or persona or the character that they're showing off outside. But can you really see in a narcissist that how wounded they are inside, how insecure they are? And oftentimes, I always say this, I say, you can never totally heal if you don't feel safe. And I think as a child, a lot of us haven't really felt safe in our childhood. And I think some part of a narcissist is still that kid who doesn't feel safe and secure, and is at this moment, at every moment in his or her lives, is thinking, I only have to survive. My role at the moment, I've been hurt enough, I've been damaged enough, I've been disappointed enough. And at this moment, I am in a survival mode. I have to be safe and secure. Therefore, for a narcissist, even investing in a deep relationship, it is almost impossible and dangerous.
Right.
Because what if, after all the hurts, all the experience, all the wounding that I have experienced till now, and finally I'm using a tools as a narcissist to protect myself, and I cannot throw that protection away and deeply get involved in a healthy relationship. Have you ever looked at the narcissist like that? That they are feeling so insecure that they're using this narcissistic point. It's not even that a narcissist doesn't want to be in a deep relationship. It's just that, is deep relationship safe or not? And if I'm constantly in a survival mode, being in a deep relationship looks could be extremely dangerous. What do you guys think? Jeff, you want
So
to come?
one of the things that you said, and it's very true, and this is the challenge, is that there's no way to win. The only way to win is not to play. So if anybody ever saw the movie War Games, that's exactly what the computer said when it was simulating the nuclear war. It said there's no way to win. There's no way to win. The only way to win is not to play. And when that's a family member, that's incredibly challenging. If it's somebody who's a partner, whether it's a lover, husband, wife, business partner, whatever, then we can separate from that person. When it's a family member, that's a much more difficult relationship to navigate. So the only game the only way to win is to not play, because one of the psychological models that I love is the big 5 aspect scale. And one of the traits is agreeableness. Narcissists have no agreeableness. And agreeableness has 2 subcomponents, which is politeness. And politeness isn't what you might think it is. Politeness is just speaking clear and not worrying about, not being too considerate of what you have to say and how it affects the other person. So I actually score pretty low in politeness because I speak straight. I'm not too considerate about how what I say lands in somebody else's life. I just say what I want to say. So my politeness is actually pretty low. But the other component is compassion. My compassion is actually above average for a man. It's actually the same number that it's the median of a woman. So I have the compassion of a woman, but I'm like half as compassionate, or half as polite, or a third as polite as an average man. So what that means is I speak straight, but I really care. Like, I have compassion. I really do care about you and how you turn out and how you're affected. When you look at narcissists, they have neither. There's no politeness and there's no compassion. Like, they really don't care how it's going to go for you. And it's a strategy for winning. It's a strategy for dominating. And when you've gone up And anybody, it's like if you can't relate to this because you've never interacted with a narcissist, when you go to battle, because that's what it's like going to battle with a narcissist, they are going to win or die trying. Every single argument, every single discussion is they are going to win. You are going to lose. It is a take no prisoners. You will die. They will be the victor. That's why I say the only way to win is not to play.
Mhm.
So that's a challenge, and often narcissists will have a lower level of, neuroticism, which is negative emotions, your inclination to think, "Oh, things are bad," and run all the negative thoughts through your head. They're not, which is often why they come off so positive and charming, because it's like, "Oh, life's great, life's great, life's great." Well, that same kinda what seems as charming, happy-go-lucky is also the same lack of negative emotion in dominating you and controlling your life. So you can imagine low politeness, low compassion, which is low agreeableness, virtually non-existent agreeableness, plus a low level of feeling bad about it, a low level of neuroticism, and they're just going to control you and feel fabulous about controlling you. And that is a recipe for disaster to get involved with. In my experiences with narcissistic people, I have had to cut communication. And I'm not the type of person to default because I'm a bit more compassionate. I don't tend to default to blocking people out of my life, cutting people out of my life as just a way of being. I tend to, you know, believe in forgiving and forgetting and being sympathetic and compassionate and empathetic to where people are at, have the compassion for the narcissist, all that. That doesn't protect me though. I can have awareness and operate from a place of compassion of, wow, that person's hurting and I really get that they're hurting. And that doesn't mean I can leave myself vulnerable to attacks. I need to
Mhm.
protect myself at the same time. And often the only way to win is to not play. It's to not respond to communication, not answer questions when spoken, because all questions are to control you and manipulate you, make you wrong them right. So the only way to win is to not play. Stop answering questions, become less agreeable yourself. I've actually set a goal. This might sound like a negative, but I have actually set a goal in my life to be less agreeable, less compassionate, and a little bit less neurotic. Like, you know what? I don't really care how it goes for you. Now, I'm not going to get to some place where it's unhealthy, but I want to get away from a place where I care a little too much what's happening to the bad actors. I need to let
Mhm.
the bad actors exist in their world and walk away and protect myself, and that's gonna make me stronger for other people rather than have too much compassion for the bad actors.
Got it. So somebody asked a very good question. What do we do? Any advice? Before we give any advice, guys, the first step I would think is, if you're in a narcissistic relationship, the only way is to get out. And I know oftentimes, because of the conditioning I told you, because when they hooked you in with giving you so much love and attention and all of this stuff at the beginning, like love bombing, and then slowly you learn to lower your expectations little by little by little. And I told you the tactic or the tool is that they get you to the point of starvation, that now when you're in a relationship, you notice that the breadcrumbing is they cut up more and more and more and more and more. So you end up with less and less and less and less. And when you get to the point that you notice that this relationship is totally out of balance, like I'm putting in so much and the investment that is coming, it's so little, because the narcissist knows they already have you, right? So the first thing is you have to be aware of your patterns, your own pattern, and you have to stop giving in anymore. The love, the attention, the whatever you're needing, you know that you no longer is going to get from this person. Where is the addiction starts? I mean, what is the addiction? You have to identify that. If I'm in a relationship and I'm being constantly disrespected, I'm constantly being putting down, and I am starving, I'm not nourished in this relationship, I'm not really getting anything. And every once in a while, they give a little breadcrumb, like 100 times, they beat you up, and then they said, oh, you look good. You're so starved and hungry that that little small comment that, oh, you look good, you lighten up. So the question I want you to ask yourself, to pull back and say, where's the addiction? Why can't I get out of this toxic relationship? Many times I notice that people unknowingly, in the deepest part of our subconscious mind, we are addicted to darkness, we are addicted to abuse, we are the one who get addicted to that. I don't know. Sometimes I think, okay, whatever our parents' relationship has been, that's the first role model. This is what I learned. And constantly, maybe subconsciously, my mind is looking for the same relationship. And oftentimes, because most relationships from our parents has been so destructive, is that that's the only thing that we know, and the mind is constantly looking for that type of relationship. Some of us, I have experienced that, guys. When we're honest with ourselves, we see in other people that they're not really used to a healthy relationship. The majority of us, we don't even know what the healthy relationship is. And this is oftentimes, you get into a relationship with someone and you're doing all the right thing, and you're being the best, and they start to throw tantrum, and there becomes, the more you give, the more irritated they become, the more nasty they become, and you ask yourself why. And oftentimes I say, it's because these are people who never had the right frame of a healthy relationship. And if they get into a healthy relationship, because of all the deep subconscious programming, the sabotage, not being enough, unworthiness, not loving ourselves, that's how we become, and that's how we start accepting to be there. And we forget that this is their platform, it's not mine. So basically, number one is to really pay attention. Oftentimes I said narcissists, they're looking for victim, codependency. People who are victimhood kind of comes with a trait of victimhood, is codependency. Narcissists are looking for victims who are codependent. Not that the narcissists aren't codependent, they are too, but they played out in this relationship in a different way. So when you get to this part, you have to realize that codependency is an addiction. And codependents stay into a wrong relationship way for too long. Why? Because a codependents always say they're going to change, the situation is going to change, and it never will. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, advice number one is understand and know that they would never ever change unless they go to years of therapy and they start to heal themselves and all of this stuff. But know that they will never change. So instead of you letting your precious life go by hoping that this person will ever change, don't put yourself there. Don't do that to yourself. The second part is, look at the red flags. We talked about this last week. Jeff and I did a couple of lives together, and it was about relationship red flag. And I told you, if you meet someone at the first time and you are all these things, they're over glorify you without really knowing you, know that that could be a sign of love bombing. look at that as a red flag. On the contrary, because as human beings, we are so looking for outside validation, and we are so empty of love and being seen and that stuff. Of course, obviously, when we go in on a first date and someone is like, oh my God, you are this and that, you're everything I could dream of. How could this happen? And all of these things, look at it as a red flag, because they haven't earned all of this stuff that they are giving you. So sometimes, maybe for those of you who are young and you just want to start getting into a relationship, it's very good to start, because know other people. Don't get tricked by the way they behave, their personalities. We really have to learn to look deeper within someone. So that's something that you guys have. Any other tools or points or stuff that we have to pay attention to, Jeff?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. I mean, one of the things that I think is just something that if we want to operate as mature, aware adults, we can kind of observe kind of the typical gender roles that people are nurtured into, in their youth and throughout their whole lives. So, in my experience, when we look at a couple of these negative personality disorders where we have the manipulative person and we have the narcissistic person, in my experience, there's more women that tend to be manipulative. There's more men that tend to be narcissistic. And you think, well, that makes sense. Why? Well, because, you think about a little girl who's got daddy wrapped around her finger and daddy loves her and gives her everything that she wants. And so, she's told she's beautiful and the most beautiful princess on the planet. And so she grows up and then boys start to like her and she does the same thing to the boys that she does to daddy. And then pretty soon, you have this woman who grows up and becomes this woman who weaponizes the manipulation to get what she wants. And similar with boys, they're taught to be the provider, provider, and that there's a trade of provision for love, provision for love, provision for love. That's the trade. And it's easy to see how those in adults become very negative weapons, because if I'm in a relationship with a woman and I'm paying all the bills, I'm buying everything, providing this whole life for her, it could be very easy for me to feel entitled to tell her what to do. I'm paying for your life. I get to tell you how things go. And that's dangerous. And I think that's where we tend to see more of like women who experience narcissistic men, probably because those men showed up in your life and said, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to provide for you. Follow me and everything's going to be okay. And you unknowingly signed some contract in their mind that by providing for you and giving you this life, that they own you. So you think, okay, well, what are the tools? And, and same thing, if like there's a man with a manipulative woman, it's like, well, what are the tools? Well, all of us can seek to become more whole in our own selves. And so there's endless information, flying in our social media feeds about you're loved and, be whole and complete without the love of somebody else, and, steer clear of attachments. And it's almost to a fault. It's almost like we're at this place where, people don't complete you. You complete yourself. They add to you, and we can take all of that with a grain of salt, because I don't think it's healthy for us to really aim at being this completely autonomous person that is just almost emotionless to attachment to anybody, because that's its own psychological issue. That's like psychopathy. You become a sociopath. You have no feeling towards anybody else. You're like, I'm good all by myself and I don't need anybody else. I think that connecting with others and engaging in a mutually reciprocal relationship of contribution to each other, like that's a healthy thing for humans to do, as long as it's with the right integrity and boundaries. So I
So what
think
I'm hearing you saying, Jeff, is that another tool that a narcissist will use would be to offer you protection, to offer to take care of you, protect you, and pay for all the expenses and everything. But be careful that that could be a trap, because it could be that you're telling a narcissist that, yeah, I want to continue education and that stuff. And they're like, why would you even want to do that? I mean, you got everything that you need. I have everything provided for you. Why? Because a narcissist doesn't want you to be standing on your own feet, right?
And
So
that
what
well, let me jump in because that's a popular sentiment. We've talked about this. We've talked about gender roles, classic gender roles in previous conversations. And it is a popular sentiment of thought leaders in the masculinity space. Men aren't men anymore. They need to reclaim being a man and being masculine. At the top of that list is like, learn to be a provider and protector. It's like, okay, and that's not a bad thing for a man to aim for. Also, don't be manipulated by women is part of that message, which is an excellent thing to aim for. Don't be manipulated by other people. But if we're aiming at being a provider and a protector, that's very healthy in principle. And it's like a weapon in the hands of somebody who lacks the self-control and awareness to then weaponize that provision and protection. Well, yeah, I'm giving you this so you owe me. I don't see all people, sadly, I don't see, billions of people around the world all elevating to a level of massive self-awareness that they no longer weaponize things they can weaponize. That's a great thing for humanity to aim at. All we can do is we can be the change that we want to see in the world. And if we're listening to material like this, you and me, and other people out there that are talking about personal growth, personal development, self-awareness, enlightenment, and we have some sort of aim to grow as a human, then part of that growth is responsibility that we are not weaponizing. We want to be the best contributor to another that we can be. We need to aim at a level of independence, ability to contribute wonderful things to another person. And we don't want to weaponize any of that stuff. That's really becoming and it's taken responsibility for our weapons, then we can look away from that.
Nicely said. Trapped that you're in a toxic relationship, to know the narcissist really, really, really well. And if you come oftentimes that has been many times abused, how could we? I always say, don't you forget that this is still that 5 that feels insecure, that is constant. Understand they're putting you down. Why? Because they're fearful losing you, because they're fearful of experiencing abandoned again. So know that if they're using a tool, it's not really against you. It's because this person needs to survive right now. And it's just they are so broken that they're using any tactic that they can. So if they're putting me down, why do you take it personally? It's not about you. If you think it's about you, you're another narcissist that you bring everything, the light into yourself. Understand, if he or she is putting me down, it's not about me, it's about them feeling so insecure in this relationship and they want to hold on to me. So the best thing that they can do is by putting me down or stopping me from improvement in my life. The fact that do I want to stay in a relationship or not, that's your choice. But mainly remember, understanding deeply where someone else is coming from, knowing why are they taking these actions, even if it's passive aggression, as a tool, know why they're using it. Understanding deeply will help us to deal better in our relationship. So thank you very much, everyone. Please write in your comments, what did you get from this live, if it was helpful or not, and what would you like the next live to be about? We are here to help you guys any way we can. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sudi.
Have a great day. Have a pleasant day or evening, everybody. See you next week. Please don't forget to like and share, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye, everybody.